So I typically don't make rant videos based on things that I hate. And in fact, this is a podcast, not a rant series, but I guess with the way it's set up from different podcasts usually going for like an hour or more, this is like 10 minutes an episode, I guess I can make an exception a few times. But the reason I like talking about hate videos or anything else in that nature is because I don't like getting mad on camera. Not because of the whole, I'm afraid to say something that I'll regret. That's not what I'm afraid of. Because I can edit that out. And secondly, even when I get really mad, I primarily still remain respectable, or whatever. I typically don't say things I regret even when I'm mad. I say my point of view, and I do say sometimes maybe I could have put that in a different way, but you don't hear me like shouting out things like the N-word or anything else like that. Like a lot of YouTube streamers. Anyway, moving on. I've decided I'm going to completely abandon political correctness. And here's the thing, a big common misconception that comes with people who lack political correctness. We are not people who don't care about respecting others. We have standards. People who lack political correctness are not racist, sexist, homophobic, and typically we won't go ahead and shout the N-word. We won't go ahead and make sexist remarks unless it's someone who actually is racist, sexist, or homophobic, but that's completely different from political correctness, or being unpolitically correct. Being unpolitically correct is, challenging views and expectations, with crude humor and, like jokes like dead babies, ha ha, very funny. I think a clip from the classic YouTube series Duckman is able to explain it better than me.
All prepackaged, the least offensive, most appealing alternative. But it's precisely when humor is offensive that we need it most. Comedy should provoke. It should blast through prejudices, challenge preconceptions. Comedy should always leave you different than when it found you.
The rebel seems roused.
Sure, humor can hurt, even alienate. But the risk is better than the alternative. A steady diet of innocuous, childproof, flavorless mush. Demand to be challenged, to be offended, to be treated like thinking, reasoning adults, and raise your children to be the same. Don't let a comedian, a network, a congressional committee, or an evil genius take away your freedom to laugh at whatever you want.
Now, of course, that mainly goes on about comedy, but I think it also qualifies in this example. So recently, League of Legends revealed a new character named Kasai, the Daughter of the Void. And yeah, I do think she is appealing. She has, and I can see where some people are coming from when they make this statement. In some cases, they say the character is sexualized. Sure, okay, she has tight clothing, cleavage, but to call her over-sexualized, that's different. And the reasons people have are, of course, like, oh, she has skin-tight clothing. That means they're being sexist and that they're over-sexualizing the character. You don't know how many video game characters or female characters in fiction have skin-tight clothing? Samus Aran, Lara Croft, Poison Ivy, who's a literal dominatrix inside Soul Calibur. And you're going to make a big fuss about this character? Bayonetta literally flaunts herself on screen in combat. And you're going to get mad over a simple character because she has skin-tight clothing and cleavage? It's like getting mad at a fandom over fan art. Something that every fandom is known for. I don't understand where people are coming from. And some sources are even talking about, oh, it's bad because of her neckline. What the hell's wrong with her neckline? And I know some people are probably going to say, well, it sets up false expectations to what the woman body should be. No. Video games don't do that. Video games are escapism. They allow us to get out of, sick reality and go into worlds we've never been to before. What you're referring to are magazines like Playboy. I think that's the biggest problem that comes with patches and all that. You rarely ever saw people complain about Lara Croft, Samus Aran, or Poison Ivy back when they were first introduced, or like in the early 2000s or something like that. But now it's all of a sudden a big problem. And I know as soon as Metroid Prime 4 comes out, people are going to make a big fuss like, oh, Samus is sexualized. They made statements about Samus in Super Smash Bros. For Wii U and 3DS because of the whole Jet Booster heals. Saying, oh, it's sexualized because she has heals now. Even though they're Jet Boosters. And they're used for attacks. But, whatever. Give me a minute. Let me take a deep breath. See, this is what I'm talking about when I say I don't normally do hate videos. I get myself out of breath. But anyway, people will go ahead and do that. I guarantee it. I'm kind of shocked I'm not hearing anything about Poison Ivy for Soul Calibur. I think it's 6. I'm sorry, I don't play Soul Calibur. But that's the problem with patches nowadays. Ever since patches got introduced, things are mainly used to fix bugs, make the game better, balance out fighters. I feel like some players end up using patches as a personal advantage to be like, oh, this character has they look tired in their face, you better change it with a patch. Remember back in the PS2 days and the Xbox days and the GameCube days when no game had patches minus some PC stuff back then? And even then, there weren't that many patches for many PC games. If a character had an ugly face or something like that because of the polygons, we basically just had to deal with it. And there were some people who made comments about it, but to be like, you need to change this in later versions. Guess what? That would mean they had to make a definitive version of the game. And while that sounds appealing, you're gonna make a definitive version just to change a character's face. But nowadays, because patches are a thing, people think that it's something you can fix in a day and release it in that same day. That's not how patches work, though. I remember when Street Fighter V came out, when it came to a certain character, I believe, I don't know which character it was, but I think it was also a female character. People were like, oh, but this character looks tired. I hope they fix it through a patch. Who the hell cares? Is it really going to be so much of a distraction for you that you're not going to be able to play the game? Oh, I'd really be more invested, but this character just looks a little off to me. I hope they fix it through a patch so I can be more invested. It's like the people who complain about those realistic narrative games and when you're going through a cave, their hand isn't gliding through the walls or whatever. You know what I mean? When in something like The Last of Us, if Joel ends up going close to a wall and he walks forward, his hand gets on the wall and slides on it. As if a realistic person would, which kind of defeats the purpose of video games, but whatever. I don't hate The Last of Us. I just feel like that's a good example of what I'm referring to. Oof. But I feel like it's because of patches. People feel as if they make enough of an uproar, then, because, even if it's the vocal minority, and I'm sure the company knows it's the vocal minority, they're still making a bit of an uproar enough to affect their game, at least in their perception. So of course they're going to bend over backwards for them and make the changes that they feel as if are quote-unquote necessary or appropriate. And I really hope that doesn't happen to Kasai. I have a feeling that it is. They're going to completely change her design. They're going to give her a complete overhaul. Or, I don't mind if they close the cleavage, because honestly, unlike a lot of these people who are making an uproar, I don't give a shit about the cleavage. But if they're going to completely change the design of the character, that's going too far, because there was nothing wrong with the design. But it's over-sexualized. Explain. Explain how Kasai is more over-sexualized than any other league champion. See, you can't. Because guess what? These other characters have features that people would perceive as over-sexualized, but it's just a design. Get over it. Like I said, Katarina has an exposed stomach. Jinx is just wearing shorts and a top. And one of Ari's attacks is about attracting people towards her. And you're going to complain about this. It's like when people all of a sudden started complaining about Apu from The Simpsons. What's the name, Apu? Or Abu? Jeez, I never watched The Simpsons, but I know this uproar happened recently. It's Apu, yeah. Apu's been here in The Simpsons since the very beginning, right? But now, all of a sudden, in 2018 and 17, people are like, oh, Apu's offensive. How? In the same way he was acting for the past 20 years? But now, all of a sudden, it's a problem. Here's the thing. I don't want to... I really hate people like this. I really do. And here's the biggest solution. If you really have so much of a problem with a design that you're going to make so much of an uproar, guess what? There are literally dozens of other video games you can play. It's just like when you get mad at a YouTuber for making a dead babies joke. I used that example God knows how many times now. But if you really have so much of a problem with a YouTuber's sense of humor, when it's clearly not really offensive, they're not shouting racial slurs, they're not shouting things that are sexist or homophobic. They're making, once again, things like dead baby jokes or decapitation jokes or something like that. Or even, I don't know, it's just other examples that are clearly crude, but not necessarily offensive. And yeah, there are people who go through that kind of stuff. There are people who have lost their children, and that's unfortunate. But if we had to, go ahead and base humor off of that, we won't be able to joke about anything. Like, this one time I broke my leg. Do you realize how many people break their legs? Okay, I guess I can't make broken leg jokes. This one time I got a fever and I really thought I was gonna die. People died of fevers all the time. You're being offensive. No, shut the hell up. That's the kind of stuff I hate. And if I ever got bigger as a content creator, and I started releasing more story-driven content, people made those accusations, you know what? I don't care how many people are going to go ahead and say I'm an asshole. I would just tell them to suck it up, cupcake. There are far worse problems out there, and you're going to focus on a piece of media made by a 22-year-old goth kid?